Hello and welcome to the podcast of the Prison Officers Association, the UK's largest professional union for prison, correctional and secure psychiatric workers with over 33,000 members. In this episode, we look at the union's long-term support for the Valley Parade Memorial Tournament, an annual event commemorating the tragedy at Bradford City Football Ground in 1985. NEC member Jackie Marshall and former National Chair John Boddington reflect on the origins of the event, its continuing importance and place in the life of the city, and the vital role played by the POA in both. I first asked John to describe exactly what the Valley Parade Memorial Tournament actually is.
Well, the Valley Parade Memorial Tournament is what we like to refer to as a living memorial to the 56 victims who died on that fateful day in 1985. And I think the most poignant thing for us always was that 11 of them were children who went off with their parents, sometimes with their dad or their uncle, to watch a football match on a lovely Saturday afternoon and never returned home.
Yeah, it was a shocking, horrific event, overshadowed by Hillsborough, and therefore perhaps not given the recognition that it always warrants. Certainly not for those who died, and over 250 injured in a horrific event. So, how long has the tournament been going?
I mean, it happened in 1985, and our conference was shortly after that when we came up with the idea. So the first tournament actually took place on the Easter 1986.
Goodness. And every year since then, apart from the pandemic years?
Every year since then, apart from the 2 years during the pandemic, when obviously it had to be cancelled. Yes. Next year would have been the 40th tournament had it not been for the 2 years we missed.
Well, I'll come back, if I may, to anything particular that's planned to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the fire later on in our discussion. But the tournament itself, I suppose we should say for listeners who are unaware, is a football tournament for teenagers, isn't it, essentially?
Yes, but when we set it up, we said it would be for the youngsters from Bradford, and what came about was there would be a tournament would run over 2 days, 1 day for under 12-year-olds and the following day for under 14-year-olds. So it actually runs over 2 days over Easter.
Has it stayed with schools just local to the Bradford area, or has it spread a bit wider at various times over the years? Jackie?
No, over the years there's been teams from different countries. I mean, currently we've got a team from Ham that come with their under 12s and under 14s. And they've come every year, except for the first year, I think, after the pandemic, because of testing and things like that. So they weren't able to make it that weekend.
It sounds like the event is extremely well embedded in terms of the calendar of the city of Bradford. Does it enjoy particular support from the council, the club, the community at large?
Yes, I mean, when we approached the council with the idea, because obviously when we came up with the idea, it was one of those wonderful things that caught the mood of conference. We said we would do it, and then in the cold light of day after conference, it sort of struck home. How are we going to do it? But the council have been very supportive when we approached them, and it was them that involved Ham, because the dignitaries from Ham were visiting, because it's a twin town with Bradford, on the day, and were actually in attendance at the football match. And of course, the other team that always attends in the under 12s and under 14s is Lincoln, because Bradford's opponents on that day were Lincoln City, and two of the 56 were actually Lincoln City supporters.
So it's rooted absolutely in the city and in solidarity across nations. In that sense, very appropriate for a trade union to be involved in this sort of event.
And there have been teams, not just from Germany, there's been teams from other countries as well. And there are some of the young boys who've gone on to become professional and international footballers.
Oh, name names. John, I'm sure you can reel them off the top of your head.
Yeah, certainly. the late Dean Richards, who played for Bradford, Southampton, Tottenham Hotspur, Danny Cadamartri, Tom Cleverley, and a very famous one from Germany, Mike Hanke. Maybe not known to people today, but it actually come through that. In the early days, we didn't keep records, but it is rumoured, although we can't substantiate the rumour, that Jens Lehmann, the ex-international goalkeeper from Germany, actually played. But, that is just, as it were, someone remembers, but we didn't keep records in those days.
Well, there's a challenge for you listeners. If anyone wants to track down Jens Lehmann to get the truth of this matter, to get verification that he did indeed play in the Valley Parade Memorial Tournament, there's a challenge for you. I'm sure John and Jackie and everyone involved in the tournament would be pleased to get that confirmation. So John, you say, and Jackie, you say it was an idea that came about at POA conference held just after the terrible events of the 11th of May, 1985. Exactly what happened? Who lays claim to having had the idea? How did it grasp the imagination of delegates to that conference?
Colin Steele, who was the chairman at the time, who himself actually was a Bradfordian, announced a conference that he'd been approached by very, very many delegates because there'd been an appeal fund set up for the disaster. And he put it to conference that we should donate some money. The delegates approved, and £1,000 donated to the appeal fund. But the people who actually came up with the idea, and I think probably it was certainly the Leeds delegates, and I think the principal man was a man by the name of Roger Bennett, along with the other delegate, George Craggs, and another man from Hatfield by the name of McRicketts, who actually put the idea to conference. George Craggs was a great orator, and he put it to conference that we should set up some kind of memorial. It caught the mood of conference very quickly, and the delegates, they sent some buckets around the conference hall to do a collection from the delegates. I remember George saying he wanted it to be a silent collection. He didn't want the jangle of any coins. And very quickly, I think about £1,500 was raised in probably 10 or 15 minutes with the buckets going round. And it's that money that actually purchased the 2 cups.
And are the original trophies still in use today for the tournament winners?
We kept them going right up until 2006, and whoever won that year used to take the trophy and bring it back. In 2006, I spoke to Roger Bennett, who actually was involved right up until his death in 2010. And I said, look, Roger, these trophies are too precious now. They've got so much history. They're silver. We need to retire these because if they get lost, they're gone forever. We can purchase a cup every year that they can take away and keep. So we actually retired the 2 original cups, and they're now housed in the City Hall in Bradford.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. So apart from the trophies, actually, the tournament has not particularly changed much over the years. What do you think the secret of its long-term appeal is, Jackie?
I think the secret is what it stands for, with the fire and everything. That's what people go and remember. We do it through friendship, through football. The Ham lads come over and they stay with the Bingley players, and then that's given back to them when they go over to Germany and play in a tournament there. But it's the memory of the fire and just not letting the memories go. And like you say, it has been overshadowed by Hillsborough because there's been so much press. Because, at Hillsborough, somebody was at fault, weren't they? Whereas this was, unfortunately, just one of those things. A wooden stand with rubbish underneath, and it set fire. And the fire just ran through the stand.
And listeners, if you're not familiar with any of the details, and there's no particular reason why you should be, I suppose, about Valley Parade, the speed at which the stand was totally consumed and reduced to ash is frightening, absolutely frightening. And next year, of course, is 40 years since the fire, John. Is anything special planned to commemorate that sad milestone?
Well, I think one of the things that's important is Bradford itself has a memorial every year. They have a service in the town square where there is a memorial which was provided by the people for the city of Ham, which has got the names of every victim on. But next year, we are hoping to have a commemorative football that we can give to each of the teams to mark the 40th anniversary of the fire. I think the important thing for us is at the start of every year, on the Saturday morning, on the Sunday morning, the young players gather in a circle in the pitch around the centre circle, and it's explained to them what the tournament is all about, so that they know they don't just turn up to a tournament to play, but they know what it's for. And to go back to one of your earlier questions, if I can, is one of the things that's changed over the years, because I think what has to be recognised is some of the teams that come are very, very accomplished footballers. The team from Ham, the team from Bradford City, and the team from Lincoln are academy players. And so what we recognised was that quite often they would turn out the winners. And although every participant gets a medal, we thought there needed to be something else. So we introduced two other cups, for one on each of the days, called the Fair Play Cups. And the referee marks the behaviour, the response from the players, how they react to situations. And I have to say that the Fair Play Cups are as eagerly fought for as the main Winners' Cup. So I think that is one of the things that we introduced. And it comes back to what Jackie said. It's all about friendship through football and building up relationships both on and off the field.
Jackie, what do you think the support for this event over so many years says about the POA and the values of the union?
It's just that the POA has always been behind it. There's never been any question that the POA would stop supporting the tournament. In fact, for next year, we've got some commemorative footballs, one for each team, which have been funded by the POA, and they'll be given out at the tournament.
Yeah, and John, same question to you, if I may, from your perspective, especially as a former national chair of the union. People might say, well, what's the union doing involved in this? And what's the POA particularly doing involved in this?
I mean, the thing for me is, when, as a former national chairman, one of the things that used to frustrate me is when we made an agreement with either the government or indeed the prison service, before the ink was dry, basically, they'd reneged on it. And I think it illustrates that the POA, when it makes a commitment or signs an agreement, actually sticks to it. Since 1985, when we decided that we would continue, and as long as the tournament ran, we would support it. We've done that. So it just shows the commitment. The other thing is, I think sometimes people think the prison officers just lock people up. If you look at the participants in this tournament from the local area, some of them come from a very deprived area. And not just the tournament is a reward for their behaviour over the year in joining these football clubs. And it's the culmination of that year. So I think we're actually doing something, and I'm sure the council at Bradford would back us up on this, actually for the community at Bradford. I learned a long time ago that you cannot save the world. No one can help everybody, but we're doing our small bit for a very, very deprived city in this country.
John, presumably Bradford City, the club, are very much involved in all of this as well.
Probably not as much as I'd like them to be, but then again, it's over Easter, and normally the club over Easter probably has two games, one on the Good Friday, one on the Easter Monday. But what I can say about the club is quite often, if they're available, they'll send a player or the manager will come down. They always, if they're playing at home on the Good Friday, they will always give us tickets for all the lads and the lasses, of course, because we have mixed teams, to attend the game if they want to, free of charge.
And Jackie, if branch officers particularly are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to contribute, we'd like to contribute to the Valley Parade Memorial Fund, how can they do that? Where can they find out more?
The contact finance at the POA, and they'll put them in touch. But just before we do finish, I think there's some of the people that we need to remember about this tournament is the referees, because the referees turn up every year and also free of charge. They give their time up. And without the referees, obviously the tournament wouldn't take place either. And I think there's particularly one of them, his uncle was in the stand when the fire was there. It's Chris, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Chris Dempsey, yeah.
Chris Dempsey's uncle was in the stand when the fire took place. And they always give their time up. But, you know, for John to be involved for as long as he has been, I mean, I've known John a long time. He was my area rep back in 1992 when I was first a branch chair. And I remember meeting him. I was in the Leeds office for something, and I asked John what he was doing. And he said he was sorting something out for the Valley Parade Memorial Tournament. And I said, what's that then? Because I didn't know. Yeah. And I made a commitment to John at the time that if ever I got onto the NEC, I would attend the tournament. And I've done that every year, other than the pandemic, obviously. I've done that every year since I got on the NEC. But we need more people to come. You know, it's a great day out. They want to see what's going on and see what the POA is supporting.
I asked Paul Evans, the Community Development Sports Officer at Bradford City Council, responsible for putting on the tournament, exactly what the importance of it and the POA's support for it is to the local community.
You know, it goes without saying that obviously the event of 11th of May 1985 had a massive effect within the city as well as nationally and internationally, as we know. But it's just that it was such a large-scale event, and obviously it was a huge surprise at the time. You know, you're probably aware of what happened and how quickly things happened and how quickly it escalated. And obviously, in terms of Bradford City on that day, they were celebrating promotion to the division above. They were actually champions. So the crowd at the ground was much bigger. The coverage, again, across the area, regionally and nationally, was bigger and more large scale than it normally would be, I suppose. So it just seemed to encompass so many people and so many organisations within the city. And as I say, the way that things panned out on the day was such a shock for everyone. So it's massively important that it is commemorated. The club themselves commemorate it. They have their Remembrance Day actually on the 11th of May 1995, and the Valley Parade Memorial Tournament complements that day.
In terms of the Valley Parade Memorial Tournament itself,
Yeah.
how does the union and the council, how do they work together to make that happen and to keep it going?
We work really well together. It goes without saying. We have a fantastic relationship with the Prison Officers Association. They contribute in many ways. Certainly, financially, their commitment to ensure that. I'm sure John's probably mentioned it in his piece, that every single child who participates gets a commemorative medal. They're really keen on that. Obviously, they provide the cups. The original ones are 40 years old now, so we don't give those out, as you can imagine, on the day. But, you know, we're in touch between events on quite a regular basis. The guys over there are really passionate about the tournament. They really want to help and support wherever they can. Logistics-wise, you know, we deal with everything that there is to deal with in terms of organising the event, organising the teams who are going to attend. I keep in touch with Bradford City and Lincoln City, you know, the two clubs who were playing each other on the day of the disaster. They're both really passionate about it as well. So it goes a little bit beyond just us and the Prison Officers Association. There's also the link between Bingley Juniors and Ham, Bradford's twin city in Germany. So, you know, it's important that those two teams, because they have the annual exchange and the Germans come over and participate, that we're supporting those two as far as we can as well. So we'll accommodate all their staff when they come over, all their coaching staff and support staff. We'll arrange all that side of it as well. And obviously the Prison Officers Association will support us where needed in terms of doing that as well. So it's quite, the relationship's good, and it's a little bit more wide ranging than just us and them as well, which is absolutely fantastic. It's obviously a long-standing relationship. You know, they were there at the start in 1986 when the inaugural tournament took off. And, you know, the national chair, Mark Fairhurst, he's actually been across probably a couple out of the last 3 or 4 tournaments as well. And he absolutely loves it. So it's not just the regional guys who are involved. It goes all the way, all the way in terms of their union up to the national level as well, you know, where they do show a lot of interest, and they're really keen that it continues to flourish and it continues to keep going in memory of the people who passed away. It is still a very strong relationship even after all these years. Yeah, and I suppose it is quite a unique thing. It's not something you will come across anywhere else. I remember, John, from years ago, I remember previous guys that used to come along. I just remember that bond. It's just as strong as ever, you know, and it's absolutely fantastic event, and all credit to those guys for keeping it going. You know, they keep recommitting financially, they keep recommitting the support. They're so passionate about it. So long may it continue.
John, last word to you. Any final reflections or thoughts or messages?
One thing I'd like to do, and that is pay tribute to Roger Bennett, who unfortunately passed away in 2010. Along with me, he'd attended virtually every tournament from day one. I haven't been a one-man band with this. Roger's always attended, and now I've got Jackie as well. But what I would say is if anyone wants to come along at Easter, come along, engage with me, engage with Jackie, engage with anyone there, talk to the parents, talk to the youngsters that are playing, and you can see what this means to them at Bradford. You know, it's so eagerly looked forward to every year. One of the teams we got coming now is made up from refugees, people who were virtually homeless. And for them to take part in an international tournament is something that they will never, ever, I don't think, forget. It's wonderful.
My thanks to Jackie and John and Paul, and you can read more about the event in the new issue of Gate Lodge, which has just been published. To find out more about the campaigning and other work of the POA, please visit poauk.org.uk, where you can also find information on how to join the union should you not already be a member. Thank you for listening. We hope you have enjoyed what you've heard and will join us for the next episode of the POA podcast. Thank you and goodbye.